Hello everyone and welcome to the first game we're covering from round 3 of this year's FIDE Grand Swiss. Also one of the first games that finished, as Gukesh's games seem to finish, amongst the first in this tournament. He's playing incredibly quickly. It is Spanish Grandmaster Daniil Yuffa versus the World Classical Champion. So let's check it out. It's a fairly short game and a fairly weird one. Daniil with white opens with pawn to d4. Gukesh replies with d5. We have pawn to c4, pawn to e6, and knight to f3. So the standard queen's gambit declined. We have knight to f6, and now knight to c3, followed by bishop to b4. So like the Nimzo, but with the inclusion of knight f3 and d5, this is the Ragozin defense. We have queen to a4 check. This is the third most popular continuation on how to challenge the Ragozin, and the knight to c6. The only move you have, as you have to block check and to defend the bishop on b4, bishop to g5, and now d captures on c4. So Gukesh already playing interestingly here, as h6 is pretty much an automatic. Sometimes bishop to d7 is played. D captures on c4 is the third most popular, and it kind of brings the most deadly positions that we could have. Pawn to e4, grabbing the full center, now that the black pawn left d5, and bishop to d7. Now the knight can move, and you have to be a little bit careful. So here, queen back to d1. Queen c2 is what everyone usually plays, but we have queen to d1, and now Gukesh just defends with pawn to b5, so you don't have to worry about bishop captures on c4. Pawn to a4, we have pawn to a6, and pawn to e5. Gukesh blunders a knight here, but not really, as there is pawn to h6, and there are some games where bishop to h4 was played. Here we have e captures on f6 by Daniil, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. There is a game where bishop to h4 was played. Vyacheslav Ikonikov played against Sergei Ivanov, and black won the game. But here, obviously, an improvement, as okay, the engine likes both moves, but you're playing a world champion. Obviously, you're prepared. But it is Gukesh who is up on time, so it's hard to say, especially if you consider the rest of the game, which now follows: h captures on g5, f captures on g7, rook g8, and pawn to h4. Pawn to g4 by Gukesh, and now knight to g5. We have rook captures on g7 and pawn to g3. And Gukesh strikes with pawn to e5 immediately in the center. You could also play this f6 move. It looks, very tricky, but there are some lines like bishop g2 and then f captures on g5. You give up the knight for h captures, and then you have like a rook h8 check. But black is perfectly fine here. You can allow it. Rook to h8 check and bishop to f8. And it looks crazy, but it works. So you could actually do that. But okay, Gukesh went for pawn to e5, and now bishop to g2. Probably everyone thought that d5 was the idea here, and then, okay, the knight moves, and then bishop to g2. But Daniil went bishop to g2, and he invites e captures on d4, which means that he is probably considering a sacrifice here. So, okay, e captures on d4. It is the only move that makes sense. Otherwise, this knight is coming to d5. So captures, and now castles kingside. So what is this? It's definitely a piece sacrifice, and you cannot decline it. Again, otherwise the knight just comes to d5. So d captures on c3, a captures on b5. We have a captures, and now rook to e1 check. And it seems like there are options here, but there's really only one. If you move the king, then just rook captures on a8, followed by queen captures on d7. So you have to block bishop to e7, and now rook captures on a8, queen captures, and b captures on c3. So it's hard to say what Daniil saw in this position, or was it merely a blunder? We have queen to a3, now comes knight to e4. Okay, there are some threats in the position. Knight f6 check, the bishop is pinned, you pick up the bishop on d7. This would go a long way. But of course, Gukesh spots it. He plays knight to e5 and queen to d2 now. We have queen to a6, stopping any queen to h6 ideas from the white queen. We have queen to d5, putting pressure on the knight on e5, and now Gukesh goes pawn to f6. We have pawn to h5. You do have the passed h-pawn, so, it's still very dangerous position. Bishop to e6, and now you could play a lot of moves, but knight captures on f6, bishop captures, and now rook captures on e5. And you could go for bishop captures. It's definitely a possibility. If queen captures, rook e7, it's a perfectly fine position. If queen to h8, king to d7, and yes, there's the passed h-pawn, but I mean, you're up a full rook, so you should be able to stop it. But Gukesh goes for rook to e7, which is also fine, and now we have rook captures on e6, queen captures on e6, and queen captures on b5. So what is the compensation for being down a full rook? Well, a passed h-pawn. So can you do something with it? Yes, but only if Gukesh blunders terribly. We have king to f8 by Gukesh, bishop to d5 challenging the queen, and now queen to f5, preventing the bishop from moving, queen to c6 unpinning, and now king to g7. We have queen to a8, grabbing hold of the back rank, hoping for a queen to g8, but queen captures on h5, saying that queen g8 doesn't really do all that much. Daniil goes queen to g8 with check. We have king to h6, the only square for Gukesh, but it's the only one he needs. We have queen to f8 with check, trying to pick up the bishop here, but king to g6. We have queen to g8 check, bishop to g7, and he was in this position on move 35 that Spanish Grandmaster Daniil Yuffa resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Point is that once you make some move, let's say you threaten a check, black is just up a full rook, and also you can just go for checkmate. Now, if the king moves, queen to h1 is checkmate, and if the bishop blocks, you just threaten checkmate. And now, okay, you can give a... Or rather, no, there really aren't any checks. This is covered by the rook, this is covered by the rook. So you can defend the bishop, but black can even just trade here. It doesn't really matter, as black is up so much material. You're going to be up a full bishop, so it's not, even worth a discussion. So yeah, really, really weird game where obviously Daniil prepared something for Gukesh. Maybe he got confused in his preparation, or maybe, he just went into unknown territory against the world champion. It's hard to say, but Gukesh took this one fairly convincingly, as he did the game in round one against Yazkan Erdemish. It was a close call. He almost beat him, but the 14-year-old grandmaster, is obviously very, very tough to crack, and he has a very, very promising position today. If it ends well, we might be showing that game next. So we'll see what happens. He's facing Vincent Keimer, and it's a pretty crazy game. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Big congratulations to the world champion. He's now on 2.5 out of 3 and on a good way, a path to winning the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025. I would like to thank Stephen Wentworth, Nightmaster Bishop, Christian Fisher, Mohammad Reza Yuze, and Carmen Polifronio for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And if you still haven't, first link in the description below. Try out Lotus Chess, improve your game, and join us in the next Lotus Chess arena. See you soon.